Hey there, everybody. I'm Mike DeLisio.
And I'm Chris Yee.
And today, Chris and I are going to be reviewing Iliad. This is part of an initial run of 2 games that publisher Bitewing Games is putting out in their Mythos line. They are both 2-player abstract games with a mythological theme by the designer Reiner Knizia, who has established a pretty strong relationship with this publisher, Bitewing. Chris and I are also reviewing pretty much concurrently the other game, Ichor. And so depending on when these come up, be on the lookout for that one as well. But first, let's show you how Iliad plays, and we'll come back here and let you know what we think. All right, here we see a game of Iliad set up, a 2-player abstract game from Reiner Knizia, where one player is playing the Trojans, which is the blue-colored player, and one player is playing as the Greeks, which is the red player's colors. And so to set up the game, you would randomly draw 2 tiles out of your bag and place it on the 2 central tiles, and the red player did the same. You're generally going to have the numbers facing you so that they're easily read, and then you're also going to be drawing 2 tiles randomly out from the bag to make up your starting hand. Around the outside of the board, you've got what are called success tiles, and those were randomly chosen and just placed out around the outer edge. Finally, along the side of the board, you've got 5 tiles on offer that are part of a market. If any of these negative tiles had come up during the drawing of those, you'd put them back in the bag and redraw until you don't have any negative tiles in that lineup. I also want to quickly state that what we're looking at right now is the deluxe edition of the game. The tiles are wooden, screen printed, and you've got these bags here that are kind of draw bags. These did come free with the standard edition if you backed it, but if you get it retail, they will not be there. They are absolutely not essential for gameplay. This plastic or epoxy holder for these tiles are also deluxe and add-on and not necessary to gameplay. The standard edition tiles are a nice thick cardboard, so good quality with standard edition as well, but this is the one I had ready to go, so I set up with this one. All right, so this is a game where every player is going to be taking a turn by taking one of the 2 tiles that they have in their hand. Normally these would be hidden, but let's flip them over for the purposes of the overview. And they would choose one of these tiles to place, and then they would just redraw from their hand, from their bag, so that they're always going to have 2 tiles in their hand, and they're going to be placing 1 tile per turn. Many of the tiles are going to have some special abilities that players may choose to enact when they play the tile. The values of the tiles go from 1 to 5, and every tile of the numerical values have a special ability except for the 5. That is just the strongest tile in the game, so it does not have any power. This is what's called a Dolos tile, and I'll show you how that works in just a moment. All right, so let's say that the blue player is going to go first. And so what they're going to do is they're going to choose one of their 2 tiles, and they're going to place it on the board on their own colored square in the grid. The rules behind placement is that they have to be placed next to a tile on at least one edge adjacent. So you could not just play this tile here because it's not adjacent to any edge. You could place it here or here, here or here to begin with. And so this number 4 has an ability on it that you can see in the bottom right, which says that if you choose to trigger it when you play the 4, you can flip over both this tile and an adjacent enemy tile. So this is a pretty strong tile. This is also pretty strong. So if I placed this here, I could either choose to just keep this here and play it as a 4, so I would have it in scoring in this row and in this column, or maybe I'm really worried about this column. There's a 10-point swing here between these 2 tiles, a 7 and a -3, so maybe I go ahead and flip that over because I'm not as worried about the 4 for this row, since both of the tiles that you can win when it's scored are going to be negative tiles. After you play the tile, you just refill from your bag. All right? And then the red player would do that in turn. Speaking of these tiles and when you get them, they're going to be evaluated whenever a column or a row is completed. At the time that a column or row is completed, you're going to check the total value of the tiles in that row or column, and whoever has the highest gets to choose which of the 2 tiles they're going to take and which one is going to their opponent, okay? And so depending upon the row or column, there could be some pretty big swings here. Like this column right here, for example, I just happened to see, is a +10 or a -10. That's a 20-point swing. So this is likely to be a pretty highly contested column in this particular game. So red would then go ahead and play. Maybe they're going to play this 2. What this 2 does is it allows them to move one of their own tiles to a spot that is available. So maybe they're going to go ahead and they're going to play this here. And they want to move one of their own tiles, which means they could either move this face down tile so that they could potentially put a better tile in this slot. So maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll move this and they'll move it over here. Okay? That is a legal placement because it's next to another edge. Even if it left this spot open, it's still fine because red could then choose to play another tile in there, and then they would redraw. Okay, so what are some of the powers on the other tiles? We've actually already seen how the 1 tile works, where you get to move your opponent's tile, and how the 2 tile works, where you get to move your own tile. The 5 tile, as I mentioned, is just the highest value. It does not have any special powers. And then the 3 tile, which is actually out here, but it has not actually been played, is an opportunity for you to swap any success tokens that you have gathered in front of you in your scoring area with one of the tiles here. So let's say that you had maybe got saddled with this -10. You went ahead and placed a 3. Now you can switch this with something that is much better. Well, I wouldn't take that one. I think I would take the 8 rather than that. Okay? And play is going to continue like this until every tile has been played for both players, meaning that the entire grid is filled and every one of the success tokens have been accounted for. At that point, you're going to go to final scoring. So let me show you what that might look like. Okay, so let's say this is how the board looked at the end of the game. Every player has placed their tile out and they've gotten their success tokens, both good and bad. The first thing you check for is if you have favor of the gods. There are 5 different colored gods in the game. Does each player have that? If we look over here, we've got at least one representative from 4 of the gods. Here we have at least one representative from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the gods. This player does not have any one of these. They have 1 marriage ring. If they had been able to get the other marriage ring, then that would have counted as the 5th god. So in the circumstance as it is right now, the blue player would win because they have favor of the gods, but the red player does not. But let's say instead that they did have that. Maybe this one was back here. Let's say this was a situation now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got all 5 of the gods, and they've got all 5 of the gods. At that point, what you would do is just add up the score of all of your highest scoring gods in the success tiles, right along here. These do not count as points. And then you would add any positive and negative points, and whoever has the highest points would be the winner. That is, again, assuming that there was one player that did, or both players had favor of the gods. In the original case where this player did not, they would have been the winner. All right, that's the general idea. Let's head back and let you know what we think. All right, so there you see Iliad on the table, and what you saw there was a deluxe edition of the game. I think probably good to point that out. Certainly some beautiful looking pieces, but I think whether you're getting the standard edition or you're getting the deluxe edition, what you're going to get either way is this incredible art by artist Harry Conway, who I'm most familiar with through Veiled Fate by Ivy Studios, a game that I really loved the look of. And man, do I love the art on this one. Chris, what are your thoughts?
This is my favorite cover. Oh man, it's like I'm not exaggerating when I say that this cover art is up there with like Unconscious Mind as possibly one of my favorite covers ever. And it kind of conveys this perfect two-player head-to-head type of a thing. And I thought, okay, well, I've heard these games are fairly abstract, so let's see if that's just like a big letdown or not, because I loved it that much.
Yeah, no, it's really, really done very well. And in a game that is an abstract game, it's nice to have some evocative art, some beautiful graphic design that kind of help you to have this lovely window dressing when you're facing off against your opponent head to head. And I guess that's something I want to emphasize early on in this game is that, two-player only games can take on a number of different forms, right? There could be kind of the push and pull, tug of war. There could be kind of this super confrontational, battling type of a feel. And I guess one of the things that stands out to me about Iliad is how tense it feels almost right away. Because you've got the kind of the randomized setup where you're putting those gods tiles around the outside. And so the first thing that I tend to do as a player, and I'm assuming it's probably similar to you too, Chris, is you start to look at the rows and columns that have the big disparities. It's like, okay, we're going to be fighting over this, we're going to be fighting over this, and kind of picking early on what are going to be the areas that I really need to concentrate on. How soon do I start to try to put some influence in there? Do I try to slow roll it? So this is all before the first tile is being placed, right? You put in 2 tiles to kind of set the board up, but beyond that, you know what the big fights are going to be. And I love that about this game is that right from the get-go, I'm already thinking, okay, what is my opponent looking to do? They're probably looking to do similar to what I'm going to do. How am I going to play this? Do I have my initial tiles? Does that inform it at all? Because you have a starting hand of 2 tiles. So it feels tense right out of the gate to me.
Well, the other thing I love right out the gate is that you see the spread of the god tiles, you see your own 2 tiles, and each player has to put 2 random tiles in the middle of the table. And almost no matter what that initial flop is, I always go, oh, I don't want those there. Oh no, my 5's out already. That's going to get flipped over. Oh no, my 1 is out already. Well, I need that power. Oh, there's a 3 there. Ooh, man, I really need, the switching power and stuff. So no matter what, it feels like you're giving up something from the beginning, which I think works to this game's advantage because this game needs to feel like the proverbial knife fight in a phone booth. And every aspect of that really plays into that right away, which, to tie back to an earlier point, I feel like that cover art, those 2 guys head to head, it feels like that for being as abstract of a 2-player head-to-head game like that is. But man, is it tight, it's tense, and as you said, everything from the get-go makes it feel that way.
Yeah, this is a game that is brand new. No re-implementation of an earlier game. Icor, the other game in this line, is a re-implementation, but it's had significant development work done on it. It was an old wooden abstract game at first, so that had a lot of work being done to it. But this one is brand new. If you've played some other Kinezias, there are going to be some aspects of it that are going to, you might be able to see some of the DNA, like there's a little bit of Kingdoms, an earlier abstract game that I can feel, although that's a multiplayer game and the way it's implemented here works very well for the head-to-head type of a thing. The powers of the tiles, the idea that the largest strength tile being your 5 tile is certainly the most powerful tile out there, but it is without a power. It doesn't have a power associated with it. And it's also vulnerable, right? It's a very vulnerable tile. The earlier you put it out there, the more quickly the opponent can manipulate that tile, flip it over, move it to a place that's disadvantageous to you, put it into a row that is going to close out and give you negative points, things along those lines. So that is, something that you've seen Knizia toy with. But I feel like this is a very unique beast. It doesn't play exactly like any of his other games. And it is just... It really gets you to where you're in the mind. You're trying to get in the mind of the other player. And I also think that a really smart thing that this game does is that there are not too many powers, right? you'll know really quickly what the powers of the tiles are. They're very intuitive. They're very quick. Things along the lines of flipping over that tile and one of the ones that are adjacent to it, repositioning one of your tiles, repositioning one of your opponent's tiles. Very simple, but they can be so impactful. And so you're not only concerned about the tile you're putting out, you're always having to think, okay, if I put this here, what's the likelihood that my opponent is going to use this tile against me? And how can I try to prevent that? I love those little nuances that are there in the game.
The most deadly tile, of course, being the one that copies the two in the same row in the same column. Yeah, the Dolos tile that's right next to, that'll copy the two vertically and horizontally adjacent to it, because that is like the quickest way to negate the power of a 5 tile. And so it's one of those things where there's always a potential outplay that you're worried about. No matter how good you feel about locking something down, unless it locks down scoring right then and there, I'm still always nervous, but not to the point where I'm stuck in indecision. I feel like this game does a good job of always giving me avenues forward, and sometimes looking at a hand of 2, 3 tiles and going, I don't want to play either of these 3s, but I have to by nature of just that's how the game goes. So how do I take best advantage of what's going on right now? And I really think that the tension, but mixed with that fact, like I said, it never locks me up, makes me really enjoy this one. Other games that it reminds me of a little bit is the 2 Polymori Blitzkrieg and Caesar games. And actually there's a new Polymori game too, the Toy Battle one, which that has these little tiles that you lay out on the map with special powers and stuff. It can mess with things. But the fact that this takes some of those familiar tropes and does... This is it's like a lane battler, but it's a plane battler because it's not linear. It's in a plane. It's on a grid. The fact that 5 in the right spot will score in this row and in this column, and you're sitting there trying to figure out how to maximize both of those constantly. It's so fun. It's like the best parts of what people say, like in Scrabble, a little bit of that area control game. As I build out some way, I'm opening up the possibilities for my opponent. So instead of setting them up for a triple word score, in this, you are trying to kind of control the availability of the battlefield to them and utilize the powers and negate what they've done, all while they're doing the same thing to you. There's something nigh magical about this game for me, Mike. I really love it.
Yeah, and there's a couple of little brilliant things that Knizia does. One of them that I love so much is that, for every column and row, there's 2 scoring tiles, right? There's 2. And so if there's ever a tie in the values, because the person who has the highest value, as you'll see in the overview, is going to be able to choose which of those tiles that they want. However, if there's a tie, and that's very easy to do, it's going to be whoever closed out that row is going to be the one to break that tie. That is such a delicious decision point that you have to deal with. It's like you almost never want to be the one to put down the second to last tile in a row unless you are in such a dominant position that you feel that there's almost no way you can lose it. But there almost never is that situation because somebody can come and do something, move a tile around. One of the things I love doing is being able to play a tile that will, the opponent has been waiting to close out a row because they want a particular tile. And so I will play a tile that will move one of their tiles to close out a row on their end and put them in the losing position. They weren't expecting, I mean, those little things are so brilliant to me. It just feels so clever. And the other thing I did want to point out is that one of the other things that Knizia is known for is his scoring. He usually have a little scoring hook, and there is one in Iliad as well, which is that there are 5 gods in the game represented by colors, and if you don't have all 5 of those gods in your scoring pile, at least 1 tile from each, then you are ineligible to win. You may have a whole bunch of points sitting in front of you, but if it's only, if you don't have all 5 gods represented, you can't win the game. So you can't just focus on one, you have to be widespread, and you have to make sure that you have at least one. If you get multiple from the same god, you're only going to be scoring the highest one, things along those lines. And then to have the two marriage, you have two marriage tiles that if you can get both of them, then it's a wild tile. So that could be very important situationally as well. So the scoring hook, the way that the tiebreaker works, those are two of my favorite things.
Well, to clarify, right, the ineligibility to win the game is only if the other player has all 5 god tiles. And so you can win with non-victory points just by shutting your opponent out. But if you get shut out, you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, I don't have all 5 god tiles. I will do everything I can before the end of this game to make sure he doesn't get a Zeus tile. He doesn't get a Hephaestus tile or something, so that we both are ineligible in that first win condition because I have more points. And so, like you said, Mike, just delicious, juicy decisions like that where in a lot of other games, there might not be that extra little touch that elevates this from a good tile placement game to one that is just tense in like 12 different directions.
Yeah. So are you ready to hit the final thoughts?
I am. I very much am.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and start it out. I think I've made my impressions pretty clear throughout this video. I wasn't really even trying to bury the lead or anything, but this is a game that I really think is special. The tension that it creates so quickly, the speed at which it plays, the cleverness which it allows the players to indulge in, the scoring hook that makes cool decisions, the tiebreakers that leads to cool decisions, the simplicity yet incredible impact that the tile powers can have. All of it just really works to one of the best two-player games I've played in quite a while. Add on top of that an amazing art and production from Harry Conway and Bitewing Games. And this one is a game that I give a 9 to, a seal of excellence for sure. And a game that I'm really going to be looking at the end of the year because I think I have a lot more plays of this game in me. And very excited to see what they continue to do with this Mythos line. So a 9 from me.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on everything, Mike, except that I'm giving this a 9.5. I think this is just a simply tremendous design that is smooth. It has very few rules. It feels familiar without being overly so, and just presents itself tremendously. One person that we've not shouted out in both of these reviews, the Iliad nor the Icor, is the graphic designer, Bridget Delicato. I think did a great job of making this game just so readable. There's small touches I love, like the fact that when you play out the number 2 tile that lets you move, I believe that one you move one of your own pieces. It shows your own color symbol. The ones let you move an opponent piece, and they show their color. So on the blue tiles, it shows move red. On the red tiles, it shows move blue. Just small things like that are just appreciated. All of those fine touches are done exceedingly well in this. And on top of that, the design is tremendous. The art is tremendous. The tension, the score. I'm basically repeating everything you said, Mike, because I just agree it's that good. And this might be my favorite just dedicated 2-player only game because of all those things coming together. It plays so quickly. The rules are fairly simple. There's moments where it looks like one person has it, and through clever play, the other person can swing the favor back into their side, shut this person out from getting all the gods tiles, even though they have all the highest scoring ones. Just, there's so much excitement in this game. So, yeah, a 9.5. I love it.
Right. Well, look, 2 seals of excellence. We only need 1, but we're going to double down. It's double excellent. And I think we're both excited to see where this Mythos line goes. And there's another great 2-player game out there. So if you're interested in good, tense 2-player abstracts, you really would do well to take a good look at Iliad. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. I'm Mike Delisio.
And I'm Chris Yee.
And have fun engaging in tense battle with your opponent.
everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games. We do top 10s. We play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.